This is how to rebuild a clutch slave cylinder and replace the bell housing O-rings on a late model Diemen open wheel car. I'm making this video in case it helps someone else out, since there's not a lot of info on these cars available online. Last time I drove this car, I was having issues with the clutch dying by the end of every session. I would have to bleed it and refill it with fluid before every run. This is fine since you don't need the clutch to shift, so I just live with it. But it's annoying when you're coming back into the pits and have little chance of rejoining the race if you spin late in the session. I could not find any leaks in the master cylinder or line, so it had to be the slave cylinder. Apparently these use rubber O-rings to retain the fluid, and the hydraulic fluid is known to degrade these over time, since this isn't really a purpose O-rings are meant for. To remove the slave cylinder, the first thing you need to do is break the car in half. I accomplished this using an engine hoist to lift the rear of the car. After that, you can access the clutch slave cylinder by removing the two bolts holding it to the front of the bell housing and the banjo ends to the hydraulic lines. If it's stuck, put the banjo ends back in and use them to gently pry it loose. There are 3 small O-rings and 1 larger O-ring that you need to replace. 2 of the smaller ones go inside the piston, the larger one goes inside the main cylinder, and the last small one also goes inside the main cylinder between it and the center tube. Important to note, the center tube is threaded in with left-hand threads. My center tube was extremely tight, so I also baked it in the oven for half an hour to remove it from the master cylinder. You may need to fabricate a special tool to get it out as well. The reason why I am replacing the other O-rings in the bell housing is I got a messy surprise when I removed the slave cylinder. Apparently some previous owner had made some Home Depot repairs, probably while at the racetrack, and used a crap ton of RTV silicone in place of the O-rings that are supposed to be there to keep the oil in the main tank. Unsurprisingly, I found a lot more RTV where it shouldn't be on this through tube as I took the car apart further. Anyway, it's pretty obvious where all the bell housing O-rings belong in the package you get from Primus. Just put them where they fit. I did put a little fresh RTV where the through tube connects to the slave cylinder and the differential, just to be safe, even though I have the proper O-rings now since this car is over 20 years old and I don't want to risk oil leaking out, but nowhere near the amount that was there when I found it. You don't need any kind of sealing between the outer edge of the bell housing and the differential. The rear half is just a giant oil catch can. That's all for now. Time to put the car back together.